All right. So I am refuting Amanda's speech on physician-assisted suicide. Her major claim that she was speaking about was that physician-assisted suicide has a positive impact on the American healthcare system. Amanda's three secondary claims were that insurance companies benefit from physician-assisted suicide, trust in the healthcare system increases, and that it aids physicians in fulfilling their duty to care for patients. With Amanda's first secondary claim, she states that insurance companies will benefit from physician-assisted suicide, and she backs it by an estimate that America could save approximately $627 million in medical expenditures annually. However, she does not explain whether this amount is substantial compared to how much of a budget the healthcare system truly has for America. Instead, she relies on the audience to make a giant assumption that this indeed is a substantial amount. So there lies the problem. With research, according to the Congressional Budget Office, American major healthcare programs are going to be budgeted approximately $600 billion for the year of 2017. If you do a little bit of math, this is about 0.1% that you'll be saving from what you're actually budgeting. This proves that the amount of money that could be saved by legalizing physician-assisted suicide is insubstantial to the amount the United States actually budgets healthcare system programs, therefore having no substantial impact to her proposition. Amanda also states that insurance companies benefit from physician-assisted suicide through no longer having to give continuous care for patients. She states that patients tend to live longer with pain, and opted suicide ends pain and any further potential harm. However, this is not necessarily true. Although opted suicide ends pain to oneself, it might be the start of pain for families and loved ones. Amanda gives no evidence or documentation of the pain patients deal with, let alone the hardships that the families have to overcome. This proves that Amanda could be hiding a side of the argument involving repercussions on the families, weakening her credibility as she is not acknowledging all sides of the argument. As stated by healthresearchfunding.org, 11% of family members suffer and gain some type of depression after one of their loved ones commits physician-assisted suicide, which further develops potential harm and also furthers pain as well, which is exactly the opposite of what she was trying to prove. This again disconnects her secondary claim due to lack of information on the whole argument. In response to her second secondary claim, Amanda states that physician-assisted suicide increases trust in the healthcare system. However, she does not give any evidence as to why this increases the trust in the healthcare system. Her only supporting facts are that patients choose to end their suffering, and it reduces financial stress for relatives of the patient. This is another big leap, and therefore proves her secondary claim irrelevant as she has no evidence to back it up. This brings me to my next point, that if physician-assisted suicide truly helps to reduce financial stress for relatives of the patient, which is a previous point she brought up, then many patients might have a new motive to commit physician-assisted suicide. The patients might now feel like it is their duty to go through with physician-assisted suicide to save money for their family. This is the wrong reason for why they should be committing this, which therefore contradicts Amanda's major claim that physician-assisted suicide will have a positive impact. If pain isn't a hard enough struggle for them, then why add financial stress and worries to it? In response to her third and final secondary claim, Amanda states that the reality of the medical world is that the aspect of preserving life is diminished. This statement is proven false by a survey taken in 2016 from healthresearchfunding.org that 31% of United States adults believe doctors and nurses should do whatever possible to save a person's life. A similar survey taken by the same organization in 1990 states that 15% of American adults believed this. So in about a 17-year span, it increased by more than double that American adults believe doctors and nurses should do whatever it takes to preserve life. This therefore proves Amanda's data in her third secondary claim to be false and takes even more credit away from her argument. So in conclusion, I believe that Amanda has presented many good points as to why physician-assisted suicide should have a positive impact on the American healthcare system. However, it is not enough to convince me that it will truly be beneficial. Thank you.
All right, structurally, it's easy to follow. On the first point, I think you went the right direction in trying to diminish what the economic impact is going to be to the healthcare system by putting it into a context. I thought you had an interesting argument that you added there, talking about how it's supposed to diminish pain, but it could actually increase pain to the family, and that was a an interesting twist with some statistical information to go along with it. I thought that was pretty reasonable. That also, there's an argument on your second point that might tie into this first point when we're talking about saving money for the family. I think on the first point, that seems to suggest that maybe there's a duty to die sort of situation. So that might also fit in with that particular point. Maybe that would be something that you could refer back to when you get to that second point. On the second point, you basically challenged the lack of evidence that the advocate had. And that's a reasonable press. Basically, you present a counterclaim talking about what this additional stress would be. You kind of explain it, saving for money for the family. I think you might want to tie it into that earlier argument like I was talking about and make that argument a little bit more powerful. You could even give some of those hypothetical situations that come up where, you know, maybe the family puts pressure on their loved one as a way to save money in the long run, that kind of thing, and now they've got that obligation, and certainly that's not going to be good for the trust in the relationship. And the notion that the healthcare provider is going to be more trusted as a result of this, I think you need a little bit more direct argument about this. I would suspect that doctors might be incentivized to do these kinds of things. There might be some kind of economic advantage to the doctor if they're saving money to the insurance company, for instance. Then all of a sudden you're wondering if the doctor is giving you the advice that's based on what's best for you or what's best for them economically. I think there are some other points to be made on this issue. The third point, well, that's again the kind of an ambiguous argument that the advocate's presenting in the first place. Your answer seems to be that people expect, and more people expect doctors and nurses to do all they can to preserve life. This is where we're getting on the brink of a value claim. Is the preserving life more important than ameliorating pain? And I don't know that the advocate had any argument about the pain issue that they developed. I think this would be one of those places where you would do a little bit more contrast. You're awfully complimentary at the exit, talking about what good arguments she made and had some good points. I would just say, look, she claimed that it would save money. I showed you it's not going to be much. She claimed that it would increase trust, and I showed you that it would actually reduce trust, especially in the family. And finally, she said it would allow doctors to provide the services that they're supposed to provide, but the truth of the matter is that doctors would be incentivized to give bad advice, and you might even find a lot of information that says that there are plenty of doctors who don't want to be participating in that kind of thing, and that I think might have been a good argument there. And then just finish with the points that you were making instead of polishing her up. Polish your own arguments up a little. Okay, thank you.